So I lead the security business here at ITS, and this is our agenda. I have a slide about us, why protect for servers in the first place, some of the challenges of managing out-of-support systems, Symantec's response to server security, and then we have a demo use case around protecting a Windows 2003 server, and we'll have time for Q&A. With me, we'll find Caitlin Minzy, who is one of our technical resource for today's webinar. She is going to cover a few slides as well as provide the demonstration for us. So just a little bit about ITS. We're a national Symantec partner headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're a national partner, platinum partner with Symantec. We also hold 4 of their expert competencies, which is their highest consulting distinction. And we have about 10 years of experience in infrastructure management in security. And we were Partner of the Year for Symantec 3 times, 2005, 2007, and 2011. So why protect servers in the first place, right? So whether it's authentication, email, access to data on file servers, some percentage of your servers are mission critical to your business, right? So it's no coincidence that these systems hold your highest value information assets. Many organizations, they don't patch servers, sometimes because there's a belief that these systems are deep in the company's network. There's a belief that they don't need to be patched, or the notion or the proposition of patching is complicated. Maybe there's some attempts to better manage vulnerabilities on servers. Bottom line is it's a complicated process of change control as well as management, of which we have some really cutting edge solutions around for the record. Manufacturing, healthcare definitely come to mind when we think about key applications that can be held hostage. IT is actually held hostage, not supporting current or even future versions of Windows Server. Other side of that same problem, the OS manufacturer can pull the rug out from underneath you, kind of like Microsoft is doing this summer with Windows 2003 end of life. And then last but certainly not least, managing admin privileges. It's another area that I feel and we at ITS feel needs more focus. SANS top 5 critical security controls, if you're familiar with that framework, teaches us that managing admin rights is key to good cybersecurity posture. So the idea of managing admin privileges is definitely money that's being left on the table out there with a lot of organizations that we work with. So a little bit on the threat landscape. Where we're at really is at a compromise between usability and security. I've been in IT for about 18 years, and an interesting thing has happened in the last decade. It seems like the users have taken over. When I got into IT, IT ruled the kingdom, and it seems like the tables have turned. As more access points, nodes, devices, people are allowed to access the network, and these are the people of today, users of today. We're at a bit of a paradox, and all this is bringing opportunities for higher activity, some of it malicious. So the dilemma around the need for security versus giving users what they want, and ideally what you want to provide them for what they need, there's a big challenge there. And continuing to provide reasonable security with increased demands of providing these what seem to be expanding services is tough. So whether it's internet browsers that are often exploited by attackers or by malware, email that can carry viruses, different elements of malware, applications, operating systems. They have many, many vulnerabilities we see and read about every day. And even network devices. They've become more attractive targets for attackers and for bad guys, especially wireless. And then there's the legacy systems and supporting them, which we are going to focus on and talk a little bit more about later. So this slide makes a comparison of traditional endpoint security versus Symantec's host-based server security solution. And for any of you that have attempted to use SEP on servers in the past, I commend you for your diligence and adhering to some attempt at defense in depth at that level. But Symantec has come up with a better way, and we're gonna show you that. So, and the highlights on this slide, the high points are single agent. It's a key performance differentiator over other vendor solutions that we're aware of. This is a kernel level driver, not a user mode level application. So in this case of looking at the other side of not saying this is traditional endpoint security, IDS, IPS policies, they are leveraged against a single agent, which goes a lot easier on system resources. Very much a good thing. That was one of the problems with using SEP on servers, and allowing for some consistent management over different solutions or separate solutions. So again, those of you that attempted to use SEP on servers in the past, there's a better way. Hats off to you. Commend you for doing that, but there's a better way to do it now. So we are going to focus a lot today on the Server Advanced Edition of DCS, but this is the suite, and it's basically broken up into three offerings. First, we have Data Center Security Server, and think NSX with this. Think virtualization. So this is virtual infrastructure specific offering. And it includes agentless antivirus service, and this is provided via a virtual appliance that goes on the NSX host, hence needing NSX, and VMware NSX 6, I believe. So this is where monitoring, think IDS, and where hardening IPS capabilities apply to VMware vSphere. Data Center Security Server Advanced, or SA, which is what we are seeing a lot of adoption of, includes all of the server level offerings, so everything in the standard server edition, plus IDS and IPS for all supported operating systems, physical or virtual. So this is the new game for CSP, the old CSP product, if you're familiar with that. This is the new CSP for servers, combined with the addition of the agentless AV functionality and capability. So IDS and IPS remains the same, agent-based, and the architecture remains the same there as well. So agents are required to be installed on every physical or virtual machine, and this is why we see this edition or this version module being adopted the most, because as much as we see a movement and a migration to virtualized infrastructure, we're between worlds, right? So we have the iron of yesterday and we have the virtual infrastructure of tomorrow, and there's a lot of heterogeneous or hybrid environments out there, so I kind of see it's between worlds in that respect. And then the last edition is the CSP or Critical System Protection Client Edition. So this is only IDS and IPS for client systems, for desktops. So it integrates with the same Data Center Security Management Console, so you have unified management. And think Internet of Things on this one, right? Think ATMs, think gas pumps, think internet kiosks or anything running, embedded operating systems, old versions of Windows Desktop, Client Edition. Could be manufacturing, where we have a Windows client system that's running some sort of factory component or manufacturing equipment. Some version dependencies in all of this that I've described, but hopefully not too complicated. We think it's pretty clean and pretty logical. So, as I mentioned before, our focus for the rest of the webinar will largely be on data center security, server advanced, or the guy in the middle there. So when we take a little further look and we kind of double click on server advanced, we can break down the main features that the advanced edition provides and put them into pretty much 3 buckets. Detection, or IDS, also referred to as monitoring, prevention, or the IPS, as well as agentless AV. So what happens is they kind of split 2 ways here. So detection and prevention. On the detection side, it's all about auditing and alerting, providing file and log level inspection. Then there's prevention. So we can provide with DCS application behavior control or application level whitelisting on top of the OS level protection. There's just not enough whitelisting out there in the world. And then the system control side, that allows us to lock down files. And maybe it's IP, it could be EPHI if you're a healthcare organization. It could be credit card or bank account information if you're in the retail or in the financial industry. And we're also able to lock down and control user privileges to do things like privilege de-escalation. Remember what we were mentioning in the beginning about management of admin privileges. So, and then the network protection side, we can essentially apply a kind of a firewall of sorts that's really effective. Other products in the market operate with deep packet inspection, and they're essentially looking for signature match and stuff like that. This is where the resource intensiveness comes in, and going back to the previous mention about SEP, right? So resource intensive, no one wants it on servers and on mission critical resources. So resource intensive is what we're alleviating there. Adding to that, we can be very granular in how we want traffic to flow, limit connectivity, even enforce access based on IP addresses, ports, users, programs. It's pretty granular and pretty powerful stuff. So not all these features have to be rolled out at once. Most start with detection, learn about their system, learn about their application, figure out what they want and what they don't want, and then start moving toward prevention, much like a DLP program or project. Start with awareness and visibility, and then start tightening things down and working toward an end result or an end goal of prevention. So, and then there's the agentless AV or anti-malware, again, very much dependent on vSphere and NSX appliance 6. So this is where I'll transition to Caitlin Minzy. She is going to cover a few slides as well, and then go into our demo use case. Caitlin.
Thank you, Matt. As he introduced me previously, I am a security engineer at ITS Partners. One of the main solutions that I focus on is Data Center Security Server Advanced. And I think this is an awesome solution because it really does satisfy a wide range of use cases and really caters to the vulnerabilities within all of our environments. And there is no silver bullet of security, but we can add those layers of protection. Based on whatever market you're in, whether you're the healthcare industry, who may have applications running on Server 2003, holding critical patient information. You could use DCS to create a policy to restrict outbound traffic and communication to that critical server. And you're protecting that sensitive data on that system. Data center security can be used for hardening systems that hold and run critical business operations. You could also white or blacklist applications. Really lock down your applications and control who's viewing what and what type of inbound and outbound communication is allowed from that system. Another market where data center security could really fix their vulnerabilities is the financial industry. So you could use data center security to monitor different account changes, to protect user accounts and customer information. You also have the ability to lock down embedded devices or have network access control to, again, block communication. There's lots of patch mitigation that could also be used for the financial market. Another industry that data center security could apply to is the manufacturing industry. They could have application control by user, by group, or even by program. Going back to that detection or monitoring piece of data center security, you can monitor those log files or registry keys or files sitting on that critical system and not only monitor them, but trigger an event based on any kind of suspicious activity. So data center security can react to those suspicious events, again, adding another layer of protection. So last year, the Verizon Wireless report said that about 86% of breaches found evidence in their log files. So imagine, using that information and creating a policy in data center security to look for those events and look for those suspicious activities in real time. That way you get visibility to what's going on within your system. So another component that makes DCS such a great solution is the minimal overhead that your IT staff will have to worry about, which is not too much. Looking at all the criteria on the screen, it again adds another great benefit for using this on your critical systems, on your legacy operating systems and servers. That way, not only are you mitigating risk, but you're not adding any more IT burden, which is just, a great feature to have within a tool, so you don't have to worry about resources and that sort of thing. So this is just a high-level architecture of data center security for Server Advanced and the different components. The management server in the middle of your screen is Tomcat-based. The database, the SQL data store, is where the assets, policies, and event data is stored. And the different agents all communicate back and forth to one another with the management server using encrypted SSL communication. That way they receive the policy and configuration changes and apply those in real time. And now we're going to look at a demo of data center security. So this is the management console which your IT staff would facilitate, and this is where all the policies are created, all of these rules to say what you want your applications, your systems to be able to do, the detection side of that as well. So we've got, your home page, which shows the situational overview and statistics that are going on. The Assets tab, this is where you configure all the monitors and agents. The Policies tab, this is where you write those rules and you manage those policies to deploy to the specific agents. Configuration tab, again, this is where you manage all the configurations and deploying those to agents. Monitors tab, this is where the detection piece comes into play. And it will show you, so this is an event that I triggered this morning. And real-time management, it details down to the description of what was happening, what user, what server version. They I can copy this event into a report if I want to, and it will track and monitor all these, and based on the setting of your policy and what you want to enforce, it will alert you on what your users are doing. And this just kind of shows how you can monitor what's going on in your environment in real time. So if we go to the policies tab, this is where you would create these policies, these rules. And let's say, for example, I'm trying to lock down my, I'm going to go advanced actually. So they have predefined policies that you can use. You can also custom make your policies as well, which is a nice feature, because a lot of people do have custom applications and there might not be a policy created to fit the need of that specific application. So this kind of allows that ability to lock whatever you want down. So, as you're building your policies, you have different options of, if you've heard the term sandboxing before, or least privileged control confinement. A lot of industries use this. Android iOS uses it. Google Chrome uses it. It's policy-based versus signature-based, and it's just an access control system for applications. So based on process lineages and program path, command line arguments, local domain accounts, this is, how that all takes shape. So if I want to create a sandbox, I can detail down into what I want to lock down on a very granular level. And these policies just define the boundaries of each application, each sandbox, and the rules that I'm trying to enforce to tell the specific system or app exactly what I want it to do, and it will not follow anything but that. So if I don't want users to be able to use Internet Explorer, I can lock that down. I can track the data off of it. I can only allow them to visit certain sites. There's networking controls. I can block communication coming inbound, outbound, just making sure that you know where your vulnerabilities are at, and just being able to lock it down and not even allow anything to talk to that you don't want it to. And there are 3 different types of prevention policies. There is core, strict, and limited. And they're very easy to use options. Again, this is just detailing down into the granular controls that you can apply to individual applications, groups, and as well as users. Pretty much anything you would want to be able to detail down, that's what you're able to lock down. So in the Assets tab, this is where you would configure all of your users, your monitors, servers, things like that. And within the Reportings tab, this is where, again, that detection piece comes in. And you can actually build reports and queries based off of, just the different events. I can drill down and export these reports, have people look at this data, and again, just make sure that you know what's going on within your system at all time. So again, this is the management console, and I'm showing a policy that I'm applying, which will de-escalate admin rights and block files that I want to block on my Symantec server. And I will also show an example of it blocking a root system file, because again, you're going to be giving your admins rights, and you want to be able to de-escalate those privileges as best as possible. So, here is the agent health showing that the policy is running. It's communicating from the agent to the management server. And again, going through the Symantec files. If I'm just another admin, I want to click around. Oh, maybe I want to see if I can delete this or export this information. It is blocking the admins from being able to do so. So if I switch over to my other VM to block a root system file, this is a Linux system, and it let's say that I'm a user, I'm going through, I'm looking at what files I can access, and, I am blocking the specific file folders that I don't want my users or admins to be able to tamper with. So that's just a quick overview of a prevention policy, and again, I can create these policies, customize them to run on applications, very granular details, who's allowed to do what time. I mean, you can make the policies as granular and as detailed as you want. So I will switch it back over to Matt.
So this is a little bit of industry success and recognition or street cred around CSP, the underlying CSP technology and data center security. So some of you may have heard about the capture the flag events that have been held at Black Hat, and even I think as well as DEF CON. And these were basically setting up an environment allowing anyone to test their strength, step right up, to try their luck at retrieving a flag hidden on an unpatched system or a workstation. So the goal was to have these different professionals and hackers help Symantec improve the technology and the product by finding some gaps, right? It's an important part of improvement is having, having these kinds of tests like this. And the flag was secured using out-of-the-box policy with CSP or DCS. So for the Black Hat instances, it was an XP workstation, if I'm not mistaken, and this had like 10 known OS vulnerabilities that had been reported and identified and made publicly known by, I think it was Rapid7, did the vulnerability scan. So this system was absolutely vulnerable to attacks, and it even had wide open shares that allowed external access to them. So hackers and pen testers from a lot of groups, some of them very renowned, I think even the NSA, DOD, DISA, people who claimed to be from Anonymous, tried but could not capture the flag with an out-of-the-box policy with a Windows box just full of open doors. So the goal, capture the flags, try to steal some data, win a prize. I think it was like $5,000 in the cases of Black Hat. We did a similar event in Grand Rapids at our headquarters here. In Grand Rapids, Michigan, you have the largest Midwest or a hacker conference in the Midwest, nudge, nudge, and it's called GERCON after the local airport code. So we did a similar event there, put thousands of dollars of ITS money up there, working with an out-of-a-box policy. And we had people hammering on that environment for a couple of days, and it was funny because lots of guys there was different strategies and different plans of attack. Some people would just sit down and just go to town on it, just kind of trying to lift windows and trying doorknobs everywhere. Other people paced around, read our scenario and our use case on a board, and got a plan together, sat down and tried one thing and got as far as some of these other guys got all day, just randomly brute force attacking things, using Metasploit, etc. So in all these cases, the product has never been compromised. No prizes were given. And a lot of guys, at least at GERCON, where I witnessed personally, if they looked at all of the stuff in the booth and they saw some Symantec logos and they said, "Is this CSP?" And we said, "Yeah." and they didn't even bother. They said, we're going to go drink beer and do something else. So great reputation. The underlying technology is one of the most evil rootkits I think anyone has seen. So it's very, very powerful, very granular technology, and it's never been compromised.
I think I'm going to answer some of the questions that are coming in. Very good questions, by the way. One of them is, what is the process to implement DCS? So one thing to keep in mind with data center security is, not only just installing the solution, but also taking a look at your environment. I think that's the critical piece in implementing DCS to make it successful. Looking at where the vulnerabilities are in your environment, what kind of systems you're running on, what future things could pose a threat. Do people work from home? Are people using their mobile devices for different applications? Wherever your risks truly exist, or you want to focus on your critical business operations, that piece is very important for the success of deploying data center security. And the process of implementing, based on the architecture slide, you saw the management server, which is where all of this is hosted and communicated between the policies and the assets and the agents to communicate back and forth within the management server. So, also educating everyone in your IT department on how to create policies, review policies, test them out. There's a lot that goes with the implementation of it, but I think those are the two biggest parts. So just assessing your network, configuring the management server into your environment, and then with that, configuring the monitors or the assets that you would want to fulfill those policies and those rules. Maybe you want detection set up so that you can monitor what's going on within an application. And then again, the last component is the knowledge transfer piece, where we would want to make sure that you can successfully facilitate this and make it as useful for your environment as possible, and having that knowledge to make sure you know what's going on within your environment, and you can continue to use DCS to add layers of protection wherever those vulnerabilities may come into play.
And just to follow on to your points that you made, Caitlin, about the implementation of DCS, as I understand it, is very simple and very straightforward. It's all the tuning that's possible afterward.
It's the granular details, that make it.
That represents the effort. Easy to install. You put a file on the agent as a file. You stick out there. Very, very simple. But it's all in the tuning when you're trying to move from detection to prevention.
Another question that just came in about the different versions for data center security. I believe the most current version right now is 6.5, and if you do happen to have a previous version, the upgrading process is very simple. So there are some rules between applying policies. You cannot apply policies to old data center security versions. I hope I'm saying this correctly. So if you had 5.2.9, you would have to create new policies running on 6.0 but again, that process is very simple. It doesn't take very long to upgrade. So 6.5 is the latest version, but a lot of people are still using 6.0.
So with that, I appreciate everyone joining. Thanks so much for your time today. Thanks, Caitlin, and we will see you on a future webinar.